2022 business meeting of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move ahead to our customary reading of the mission and vision, if we could all please take a few moments to remember those of Robb Elementary School, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. As customary, we move on to the reading of the mission and vision.
Richmond Community Schools guides students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Vision statement of Richmond Community Schools is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Moving on to celebrations, Dr. Ray.
President Weber, trustees, community, I ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, which I'm sure she's somewhere back there, makes her way to the podium to present tonight's celebratory winners. And Mrs. Hazelbaker, as you can see, is she's got a bad will. She
Yes.
can't get it done.
So tonight we are celebrating the first place finishers in this year's Boston Run. Please join me in welcoming 4th grade boys first place finisher Colin Carpenter from Charlotte. Next, 4th grade girls first place finisher Lily Carr. Third grade boys first place finisher Kay Lewis. And finally, 3rd grade girls first place finisher Kinsey Williams. All right, so we're going to take quick photos, and I'm just going to ask quickly, how did this year's race work? Tell us a little bit. I mean, I know a lot of these teachers know. Some of the teachers maybe at the high school or at Dennis may not understand our test. Tell me, how did this all start? Did you guys practice after school?
Yeah, I practiced after school and sometimes during recess.
Good, good.
I run a lot.
And then, so all of the 4th grade boys ran at Westview. At first, all the 4th grade, they all ran, and the top 5 moved on to the big Boston Run. Like when I was in school, we all ran together. And now you guys ran at your school, and then those who were the first 5, right? They went on to the big race at Crestview.
The first 4.
Oh, the first 4. Thank you. So you 4th graders, how did you guys do last year as 3rd graders?
Last year I got 5th.
Good.
Last year I came in 2nd.
So are you guys expecting to try to win first place next year? We're gonna try again. So Colin, tell me who you brought with you tonight.
My family, my dad, my brother, my grandma, my aunt, my cousins.
And who was your teacher? Who's your
Miss
teacher for
Lafitte.
Trump? Miss Lafitte, and she's here. There's she. Good. All right, and Lily, tell me, who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my mom, my dad, and my 2 younger brothers.
All right, and where are they at? There they are. Good. And then Tay, who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my sister, my mom, and my brother.
Good. And Kinsey, I was gonna say Lily, so I brought Kinsey. Who did you bring with you?
I brought my dad, mom, and my brother.
And your mom's also a teacher. Yes. All right. So, board members, do you have any questions?
Where's Tay's family?
I'm sorry?
Where's Tay's family?
First Tay's family.
Okay.
I'm curious how far you ran. How far did you go?
We did 2 laps around
Okay.
the track.
So half a mile.
Yeah.
Wow. Well done.
Shepherd, your chance.
So I was,
Here has run Boston Run before. Come on. Run the Boston Run as a kid.
Oh, it's a kid.
Mrs. Hazelbaker, I indeed was there on site during the Boston Run. It was a steamy, humid day. Family and
Not as
spectators.
humid as the day before.
And so you opened the door. I must say that while I was on site, there were a few of you all that were challenging me as to see if you could beat me. And I was going to run the race backwards to show you all how fast. To show you how fast I am, but we'll do that next year. I'm teasing. You said it's a good joke. Nevertheless, congratulations. The courage that you all showed along with your classmates. One of the things that I found to be extremely exciting to see is that everyone finished the race. Even those that may have stopped and walked or tried to bow out or allow doubt to creep into their mind. Many of you all encouraged them, pushed them on, and every last participant finished the race, whether they had to run across the line or walk across the line. And so it was just, again, another great exercise in resiliency. So you all are amazing. We all are Richmond, and congratulations.
Parents, if you want to take pictures real quick.
There you go. Goes like that.
Saying your name. Oh, I know. It's not important.
Look, he's like, just looking at the camera. Just looking at the camera.
Great job.
Well done, guys.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Keep running. Keep running.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. Keep on running.
The high school track coaches in the audience.
There you go.
So we're jotting down some names. Do you have a number for us?
23.
Okay. Well, moving on to item 3, public commentary. And I'll read a little script so we're all on the same page. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board wants to ensure that the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely, efficient manner. The maximum time for the individual speakers is normally 5 minutes. However, with the number we have, it will be reduced to 3 minutes. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, and obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of the staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting. The public participant will receive a personal follow-up email from the board president within a week. So with that said, Mrs. Claypool will keep time.
President Weber, can I ask a question? There's nothing in your policy that says you can reduce the time.
Mr. Weber, your policy isn't binding, it's waivable. There is no right under the Indiana law to address a public meeting other than in those limited situations where you're conducting a public hearing. The ability of a patron to speak is a matter of the grace of the board, so you have reasonable, and it's just been affirmed by the PAC, Public Access Council, you have reasonable latitude to set time, place limitations on presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. McDermott and Mr. Cross. Our past practice has been to reduce the time when the number usually is greater than 10. I think 3 minutes is reasonable, and we will proceed that way. Mrs. Claypool.
That's exactly where we are, folks. Mindy Johnler is first.
Hello, I am Mindy Jackson Lobster. I'm an applied skills teacher at Hibbard. I'm completing my 20th year of teaching. Over the course of my 20 years, I have earned 2 master's degrees. I would like to briefly share some data I have recently collected. To be honest, I've been asked by several people if I'm sure that my job will be safe if I speak up. My response has been, I've raised my son to stand up for what is right and to speak out against what is wrong. I've also taught this to my students over the past 20 years. I must practice what I preach. With that being said, I sent out a survey asking how many teachers have to have second jobs in order to survive financially. Out of the 115 teachers who completed the survey, 76% of us have to have second jobs. Sadly, I'm one of those teachers. That would not be necessary if we also received insurance for $4 a year. Cheaper insurance rates for teachers would be life-changing. I couldn't fathom the difference it would make to be paying half of my current rate, let alone $4. At a time when inflation is at an all-time high, it's a slap in the face to each of us teachers to learn of the costly gift that you gave yourselves. Right is right and wrong is wrong. This is wrong. And something tells me that if you truly search your souls, you guys could agree. People leave this profession that I've devoted my life to over financial stress. I'm sure everyone in this room knows of a teacher who has left a profession for this reason. Teachers are continuously underpaid and undervalued. This is a prime example, but it definitely shouldn't be from our own school board. Morale is the lowest I've ever seen in all of my years here, and it hurts my heart. I've seen division between the board and teachers before. However,
You have 1 minute.
I've never seen it to this extent. The amount of high quality administrators and teachers leaving our district is alarming, to say the least. Ultimately, it'll be the children who are punished in the long run. I'm asking that you reevaluate your decision. And some of us are auditory learners and some of us are visual learners. So I went ahead and brought a visual so you guys can see. 76% of us have to have second jobs to help our children go to college and pay rent to get to go to college and things like that. Thank you.
Judy Jackson.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm Judy Jackson. I'm a job coach. I work at the high school for Mrs. Avery. I'm going to jump right into this because I don't want to be cut off. As I said, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll try to be brief and straight to the point. I want to take an opportunity to tell you how I became a part of the Richmond Community School family. 20 years ago, my daughter, Mindy Jackson Wampler, started her teaching career at Fairview Elementary School. That same year, my husband and I became volunteer study buddies, which led to 13 years of volunteering. About 6 years ago, my daughter coerced me into using my degree and to become a substitute teacher and paraprofessional. On September the 13th, 2021, I became an employee as a job coach and bus driver per the request of my good friend, Stephanie Baker. Sorry, that was a very, very long intro, but I'm not just anybody. I am a teacher, counselor, caregiver, mentor, grandmother, trusted friend, nurse, bus driver. That's what paraprofessionals do.
As a board member, I'm not sure if you're aware, paraprofessionals are not offered insurance. No vacation days, no sick days, and we cannot draw unemployment in the summer months. My heart is breaking for my friend and coworker who will have to seek out new employment due to the fact that 2 months ago, she found out she had lupus. 2 weeks after that, her husband was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. They have no insurance. That's only one example of why paras need insurance. I'm sure you understand my disbelief that this board will. Pardon me?
Sorry, 1 minute.
Woo! That went fast. Wow, 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 wow. Well, I'm just telling you, you got a good deal because even at Dollar Tree, you're gonna pay $1.25 for a roll of toilet paper. And it's used to be $1, but it's 25 cents higher because of inflation. And sometimes I feel like you on the board use us for the same reason you use toilet paper.
Ryan Parrott. Okay, Teresa Benedict.
I'm gonna let Deb straighten her first.
Oh, Deb, okay.
Hello, Dr. Wright and board. I'm Deb Straisner. I'm the nurse supervisor for Richmond Community Schools. I am here to talk about the proposal that was presented to the board on April 13th from Meridian Health concerning placing a federally qualified school-based health clinic at Richmond Community Schools. They passed a lot of information on in that meeting. My head was swimming, and I was just a little more than shocked. This was the first time that I had even heard this being discussed. To say the least, all the nurses were just a little bit skittish about wondering if and when this might take place or might not happen. Would we or would we not have a job? Would we have jobs in the near future or after the school year? From there, we are invited to a Google Meet with Dr. Wright, myself, Lauren Ogden, and Christy Anderson, RCS nurses, and Lisa Settles and Sharice Hines with Meridian Health. That happened on May the 11th. It was basically a question and answer Google Meet. From there, we did a tour yesterday at Muncie Southside Meridian School-Based Health Clinic. More questions, more answers. However, we still have questions and lots of concerns. One of the concerns is we have no data to compare their services to support this going into this if RCS is headed in that direction. We don't want to be used as a referral nurse to push parents and students for care for Meridian. It's almost like stealing patients. And should something happen, heaven forbid, where's liability going to lie? There was just another deadly shooting in Texas at an elementary school. A reminder of how important it is to keep our students safe. When parents send their kids off to school, they want to know they're cared for and safe. Meridian offers behavioral, dental, medical, nursing, other amenities, all in one package. However, based on the sliding scale information we received, there's an associated cost that may be passed on to parents. But they say it's free to the school corporation. No doubt that sounds enticing. However, when something sounds too good to be true, many times it usually is. I'd rather deal with a known devil than an unknown devil. For sure, I'm sure you can all say in the last 2 years it's been difficult. Yet behind the scenes, our nurses put in countless hours, blood, sweat, and tears, making sure our students and staff receive the best possible care to everyone during the pandemic. Our nurses make a difference in the lives of many students. Nurses are responsible for so many moving pieces in the district. We are invested with RCS. If you want loyal employees, you must be loyal to your employees.
Amen.
A big part of A big part of medicine is relationships. You've heard or will hear about a few of those relationships built by our nurses. Our nursing staff is asking Dr. Wright and the board to table a decision until we have more dialogue with each other and more data is obtained to support or not support this venture moving forward. When we do or fail to do
what we do or fail to do makes a difference, and it's foolish to think it does not. Our students rely on this administration and school board to do what is right in their best interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Benedict.
Good evening. I am Teresa Benedict. I work for RCS as a school nurse for Fairview, Westview, CUS, and Hebron. I thought it was important to speak on behalf not only of my concerns as an employee, but also a parent of an 8th grade student that attends Hebron. I am prior alumni of RCS and a proud Navy veteran. After living in Virginia for over 30 years, I've recently moved back to Richmond to give back to the community that I grew up in. This past year, I've had the privilege of working as a school nurse. I have watched and listened to many stories from children and staff while caring for them. It has given me a great appreciation of what has happened in our community and the dedication of individuals, nurses, educators, and support staff who fight every day to try to stop the cycle of poverty, drugs, and neglect. These people are the boots on the ground and are doing it for little pay because they have hope that what they are doing will make a difference. Education and the care our current school nurses provide are the best weapons we have to end this. So why are you making these changes? What rationale do you have that shows that the changes you are pushing through are in the students' best interest? I feel that more money should be spent in skill development, student well-being, and education so students can be successful, even if college is not in their future. All children deserve to feel that they can be productive citizens from whatever background they come from. Taking away their nurses and teachers won't do that. I feel that administration is out of touch with the needs of the students with the decisions I have witnessed. As a parent, I watch how COVID has impacted my child. I watch his grades drop and his social skills diminish. These last couple of years have been chaotic for our children. So at a time when our children need the most structure to get back on board, the administration is making many leadership changes at almost every level and at every school. How is this helping our children? Now the board is exploring the area of Meridian providing nursing services. That is concern for me on many levels. In the RCS clinic so far this year, we have had over 43,000 visits. I am sure Meridian sees that as possible dollar sign, even though they claimed their service would be free. They had even stated at the March board meeting that they hoped that they would receive enough referrals for services to make it worth the investment. How does that make the clinic unviable for our students? Currently, you have a group of nurses working for RCS who look at the students and see hope, see the future, see love, and possibility. Never are our students dollar signs or an item whose care should be outsourced. As a school nurse, our job is more than handing out Band-Aids and medication. Sometimes we are that constant in a student's lives that they know that they can depend on. We are their advocates, that ear when they need to be listened to or just a simple hug. We are the extra hand that may be needed in the office, the lunchroom, or classroom. Some say that is not our job, but I believe whatever it needs to be done to support our students is our job. And we get our jobs done with the things just the way they are. No need for what Meridian is selling, no need for fancy equipment and a shiny new clinic.
Right, ma'am. Time.
Thank you.
It's Christy Anderson.
I'm Christy Anderson. I'm a nurse at Crestdale Elementary. In the fall, I spoke with 2 board members who came to my building to gather feedback and concern from teachers about our schools and our district. I shared with them a frustration from the nursing staff that we were concerned about communication and how we as nurses felt as though we have no representation and no seat at the table. We've never felt as though we've had a voice, ever. One example of that is that while working through the pandemic in our buildings, we had no clear direction on guidelines and were never given a choice to give any suggestions from a medical perspective to help navigate our district through it. We were the front line throughout this pandemic, and we persevered despite having no direction and no input. Now we're facing another situation in which we feel we have no voice. We learned while watching the April 13th board meeting that our administration and board is considering outsourcing nursing services to Meridian. Before this meeting, no one from nursing services was asked if there were issues that could be improved on, or if we felt there were tools or resources needed to help us serve our students better. No one asked if the services Meridian is offering have been or are being used by current staff. And we've never heard that there's been a complaint from anyone within Richmond Community Schools. We only, after the April 13th meeting, we posted on social media, then were we allowed to ask questions of Meridian. And that seems to be an afterthought. Our nurses work hard to ensure the students' needs are met. We work with local entities like Communities and Schools, Reed Health, Centerstone, Mobile Dentist, Lions Club, local optometrists, and many others to meet those needs, many at no cost to the students or the district. When talking about outsourcing nursing services to Meridian, the word free gets tossed around a lot. For years, many of us have served our buildings working hard to build a relationship and trust with the staff, students, and their families. Relationships where parents feel free to call or text nurses with questions and concerns. Staff trust suggestions and recommendations for themselves and their students. And students feel comfortable sharing concerns and problems with someone they consistently see in their building as someone they know and trust. Can a price be placed on our students? Can a price be placed on a parent's peace of mind? How about either of their trust in you or in us? I understand there's a risk involved about speaking out on this issue, but it's an issue that I feel passionate about. We're your nursing staff. We feel a loyalty to our students, our buildings, and this school. We ask that you keep us as members of this team and to not outsource nursing services to Meridian. Help us to continue to remain part of RCS as employees and to serve alongside you as members of this team.
Kim, what was the name?
Lauren Ogden.
Thank you.
Again, a nurse. I'm Lauren. I'm the nurse at Dennis. School-based health services can be vastly beneficial to disadvantaged pediatric populations with limited access to health care. That's without question. However, I would respectfully encourage the school board to explore the resources that are already available for children and adolescents in our community, many of which we as school nurses have already established connections. As a school nurse, I've personally had the privilege of collaborating with the Wayne County Health Department, Neighborhood Health Center, WellCare Community Health, Bridges for Life, Lions Club, the Children's Bureau, Communities and Schools, Mobile Dentist Services, and several local optometrists to ensure that our students have the care and support they need. Firstly, I would ask the board to further explore Meridian's health reputation as a company before bringing the decision to vote. Expansion of school-based health services is taking place across the United States with over 2,000 of these clinics currently operating in schools nationwide. However, Meridian Health is not the only company that provides school-based health care. As a place of employment, Meridian Health has underwhelming employee reviews on employment websites like Indeed and Glassdoor. A staff member from Muncie Southside confirmed to us yesterday during our visit that nursing staff turnover has been an issue that has affected continuity in the Southside Clinic location. Secondly, I feel strongly that should a decision be made to embed expanded healthcare into our buildings, there should be strong data to support the benefits of doing so. To my knowledge, we have not been presented with any data that supports the claims made by Meridian about what they are able to offer this community. Are there comparative analyses between the number of students who were immunized in Muncie before and after they partnered with Meridian? Is there data that supports a relationship between the implementation of Meridian services and improved school attendance? Have we received objective feedback from parents and teachers in the Muncie community that corroborates the claims by Meridian that this partnership is in the best interest of our students? What percentage of parents in our own district report that their students do not have access to primary and preventative health care? And would RCS parents be receptive to the services that Meridian is proposing? Final concern is that school-based care model proposed by Meridian will negate the message that we've been emphasizing to parents throughout the course of the pandemic and all along really, that if a student is sick, they should stay home. The success of Meridian's proposal depends on the opposite happening. Children who are sick coming to school to receive medical care in our buildings rather than in a doctor's office or ambulatory care setting. I firmly believe that the nurses collectively have proven, particularly during the pandemic, that we are not disposable and that we are proud of the valuable contribution that we make to the district as members of RCS staff. In acknowledgement of that, I can only ask respectfully that this decision be made thoughtfully and that Meridian Health's proposal be compared to other companies offering similar school-based health services, as well as to the merit of utilizing resources already established in our community. Thank you.
This is not in response, but you rattle off a whole bunch of questions. It would be, I think it would be helpful for us if we could have a copy of the questions. If yeah, just that'd be great. Thank you.
Kim, it was a 5-minute talk.
I know, you got.
I made my notes though, made some
Do you
changes,
need
we'll
your 1
see.
minute?
No, don't give me no 1 minute.
Okay,
Cut
go.
it off.
Just kind of.
Keith, on May 11th, 2022, you stated during a public meeting of the board, and I'm quoting, "I don't think there should be any concern or anyone fearing any sort of retribution." You then went on to say, "I don't think I, in my workings with anyone on this board, I don't think anybody has that sort of outlook." Those were quotes. Let's be clear. Retribution is punishment inflicted on someone as a vengeance for a wrong or criminal act. Individuals in RCS aren't worried about retribution. What I think they are worried about is vindictive retaliation. Let's take my situation. September 1st, Curtis Wright jokes during a principals meeting, literally laughs out loud about how administrators and principals are nervous when he visits because he hadn't filled the 2 openings we had viable candidates for. 2 days later, after thinking it was funny that people were nervous about being moved on September 3rd, 2 days later, he met with me to inform me that I would be moved to CYS as the principal starting that very next week. No reason was given. You then voted 7-0 with no questions or comments to each other to make that move. Fast forward from September to December 27th, when Curtis shows up to Baxter unannounced to offer me the principal's job at Dennis Intermediate School. During that meeting that lasted almost 2 hours, I told him I absolutely would help out in any way that I could, but I was concerned that I didn't have the support of individuals on the board and at least one member of his cabinet. He assured me that he wanted me to be the principal at Dennis. He told me he would give me a call later that week, but that call never came. Hal Item, March 28, 2022, Curtis Wright was quoted as saying, "Cook and everyone else working in CYS have done a phenomenal job this year." Friday, April 22nd, Sheila Hobbs texted me that she was being transferred to CYS as the principal for the following school year, not realizing that I had not been told that I was not going to be principal next year. The following Monday, on April 25th, I called his office, spoke with his executive assistant, asked if Curtis needed to speak with me. She stated that he hadn't asked her to put me on his calendar and that she would ask him and get back with me. It wasn't until 2 days later that I was asked to meet with him at central office. That Wednesday, I was told I was being displaced and would be a classroom teacher for the next school year. A 5-minute conversation. 2 votes this year to move me from positions that I held and was doing the job at a high level. You had absolutely no conversation or questions for each other or the superintendent. Think about it. No verbal reprimands, no written reprimands, no immoral or unethical behavior in 25 years as an educator, and 0 work performance issues. Rated highly effective as a teacher or administrator my entire career. In a 5-minute conversation, "Oh, you made me a teacher." Oh, like that's supposed to be a punishment. Look at all you teachers. You're awesome and I'm proud.
Linda Morgan Senior. Linda.
Follow that. Good evening, Dr. Wright, Mr. Weber, members of the board. I was not planning to speak tonight, and for some reason, about 3:52, I called and got a spot. So here I am. So as I am hearing people speak tonight, actually I was going to use my entire time to speak about the librarians in early college. But as I am hearing people speak, it seems as though those are just symptoms of what the problem really is. And it seems as though that decisions that affect people, affect human beings, are being made. And, you know, our kids are up there first, and then the rest of the human beings. But the decisions are being made without the important input from everyone, community, teachers, across the board. Now, I have been in this school system for a long time, or I had been. I was a teacher. I sat at that table like many of you board members, and not an easy job always. But there are two kinds of leaderships that I have witnessed over the years. There's dictatorship and control, and then there is that leadership that is shared decision making, asking the people in the community and your employees. And it doesn't look like to me that right now it's shared leadership. And because teachers have lots to do right now, and they wouldn't be here at this meeting if it wasn't for a purpose. So I'm concerned about the library program. You know, libraries, books to kids, to students are like a basketball is to others. Yeah. Early college program, that is really sad that that's being dismantled, and that you are sending those students back to schools that they haven't experienced before. You need to really think long and hard about the decisions that you are proposing. Thank you very much.
This is Adaya Belcher.
I'm Adaya Belcher. I am a 7th grade early college student, and I was in Logos and moved to early college whenever I went into middle school. I moved to early college from Logos whenever I was going into 5th grade, and Hebron has been my home for 5 years. At first, I started early college so I could get college credits to get a head start. But then early college grew on me, and I made close friends. Some of my friends would be geeked out if early college closes, and there's nothing to replace them. As a result, some parents are choosing to have their children go to out-of-town schools because they aren't comfortable with children going to in-town schools. I'm asking the board to reconsider, and if early college students can stay in the building as a general high-ability program. The students who are not able to go to test in the Logos will be forced to go to other schools. It will be a difficult transition as we are community. As a community, each program has been built off of each other. For example, Mr. Pitcher's 5th graders help by reading to the applied skills students, And last week, I had the privilege of helping with field day for 3rd and 4th and applied skills. I would not have had this experience if early college hadn't existed. If early college students are forced out, it would also make it difficult for the other 2 programs to remain open and successful. The other programs might have to relocate due to early college disbanding, and there might not be enough funding for the other programs.
Tyson Osha.
Hello everyone, my name is Tyson Osha, and I have been a Hibbert student since the 3rd grade. I have been in early college for 2 years. If you get rid of the early college program, and all of the kids in 5th through 7th grade will be forced to leave their school and go to out-of-town schools unless they go to Dennis or Test. Dennis and Test are already overrun by kids, and their classes are filled with 20 plus kids, and adding 15 more kids in every grade will not help the issue. Coming to early college, I did not know very many kids in my class, but after spending the past 2 years here, I've made very good friendships with the kids in my class. The early college program has helped me and many other kids to be better people and students. We have created a community at early college, and by you guys shutting down the program will negatively affect kids' learning experience at early college. Now students in RCS schools will not have the opportunity for out-of-the-box learning to expand their future career and college options. I hope the board members will make the right decision for RCS students and the future of Richmond Community Schools. Thank you.
Amanda Mole.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Mole, and I'm a first-year teacher at Dennis Middle School. In the past 11 years, I've worked in numerous capacities for RCS, including PTO president and vice president, substitute teacher, substitute paraprofessional, substitute clerical, Title I paraprofessional, SEL paraprofessional, and now 8th grade English teacher. During this time, I've been in 5 different buildings throughout the district. This year has no doubt been the most challenging year I've ever endured. Excited to start giving back more as a first-year educator, I signed up for my first district committee, the Hibbert STEAM Committee. I rearranged my schedule and successfully made it to the meetings, which is no small feat for a teacher with 5 boys of her own at home. I felt like it was important to be actively involved in this committee, as I have a 7th grade early college student at Hibbert, and my senior is currently finishing his cadet teaching, also at Hibbert. After 2 meetings, I found out from my son that Hibbert was shutting down the early college program and leaving 1/3 of the building empty. At first, I did not believe him. After all, I was part of the STEAM committee. Why wouldn't we all be notified of these changes? Why would I find this information out from my 12-year-old? What organization would conduct business in such manner? I served on the CAECI Head Start board for the school year 2011 to 2012. And would have never fathomed making decisions in this manner. I never received a dime for my service. I served at Vail and at Hibbert for 7 years as a volunteer without being paid a dime, because that's what changes the world. Serving without expecting something else in return. My significant other is also a teacher. He was present at Dennis on December 13th, 2018, when the unfathomable occurred. If anyone deserves insurance for $1, it's the survivors who pour into our their own trauma from a tragedy that occurred in our own school building.
You have 1 minute.
I understand the appeal and motivation, but I also understand we are the boots on the ground. I see the effects of trauma every single day as a mom, teacher, and volunteer. As a significant other who had the privilege to see what warriors in our system looks like, the recent decisions of the board honestly offend me. Particularly because I had such high expectations from personally knowing many of the board members and working in the school system with them. I am not certain what path they are leading RCS on, but I'm hesitant now. I have no desire to ever serve on a district committee ever again due to the board's blatant disregard for our time and efforts. I love our students. I have a passion for our students to help them overcome and succeed. I only hope the board and administration decides to walk on that path with me, because the students, our kids, they are the correct answer. Thank you.
Marisol.
What was the name?
Marisol. What's your last name?
Cola. Hello, my name is Marisol Cola, and I'm a 6th grade student at Early College. Today I witnessed my older sister graduate from 8th grade, and it has reminded me of how much I'm going to miss. With Early College, I have been pushed to do my best and have made a deep bond with my classmates for 2 years. But now Early College is getting shut down, and I am worried that I won't be pushed into any other school. Even the fact of leaving my classmates who I've made so many memories with frightens me. But it's not just my classmates. I'm also scared to lose my teachers. They have taught me so much, and I have seen them worry about this for so long. They aren't just worried for themselves, but also for the students and their academics. And my only question is, how long are you going to make these amazing people worry for themselves and their students? Thank you for your time.
Renee Cola.
What was the last name?
Colaj.
Hi. So my name is Renee Fuller. This is my first year at Richmond. I teach at Richmond High School and at Hibbert. I don't have a speech prepared. I'm speaking from the heart. I got to see my daughter graduate from early college. It was something that made me so proud. I have seen her grow as a student and as a person, because the teachers at early college care a lot. All the teachers that I've worked with care a lot. I stopped teaching. My degree I got in 2005. I taught for 2 years in different schools, and I stopped teaching because it was toxic. The administrators of my buildings, principals, they didn't care about the teachers. They cared more about themselves, trying to beef themselves up. I did substitute teaching in Richmond for 2 years before making the decision to join here, because I saw a difference here. I saw what my children were receiving. I have 3 of them. Moving to Richmond was one of the best decisions of my life, because the education they're receiving is amazing. These teachers are amazing. My children have grown so very much because these people put their time and effort into it. That's why I made the decision. It was a really hard decision to join this team. And now I'm regretting it because I don't feel valued. I pay almost $400 or more a month for insurance. I have a second job. I work 7 days a week because I'm a single mother trying to provide for my family. I thought I could do as a teacher. I'm also going to school full time.
You have 1 minute.
You guys need to respect the sacrifices that these teachers make for students. You need to put the students first. That is what being a teacher is all about. That's what these people do every single day. You need to walk in our shoes before you make decisions that affect our lives without even getting any input. Thank you.
You want me to follow that? Hey guys, you guys look awesome, by the way. Jay Lee, at the high school, and like always, I don't have any remarks prepared. Not really. My whole thing today is about optics. What you guys see is not what we're seeing. The optics that you're out there seeing out there, what's going on in our district, is not what you're seeing out in the walls of Richmond Community Schools. And I'm not just talking about the high school. It goes from pre-K all the way through. All right, optics. I already got lost. I want to talk about Hibbert. I want to talk about early college because I wish there was an early college when I was going through, because I'm a first-time college graduate. First one of my entire family. Since then, all my cousins, all their children,
our children have all become college graduates. I could have been very easy working with my dad at Belden, who worked there 45 years. They saw something different and pushed me. I wish I had that. And you guys moving these poor children out of their home into back to Test or Dennis is disgraceful. Disgraceful. They're a community of children. We are an SEL district. Right? I mean, that's what we've been told. You're not taking care of those kids. Kids first. I was up here talking about leadership 2 weeks ago. It's not seeing it. All right? You need to go back. What are the targets of early college? First generation college kids. People who don't know how to get there. I don't know how many times I've had a conversation with my kids over at Richmond High School, and they say, well, I can't afford college. And I say, I put my wife through college for $400. She was a good student. She made scholarships and all that stuff. She works in the district as a speech therapist.
You have 1 minute.
Better hurry. First generation college students, free and reduced lunch people, underserved students. You're taking those kids who need the best education and you're removing them out of a loving, supporting environment to a pond. They have no idea what they're getting into. Shame on you. All right. Dr. Wright, you know this guy, Machiavelli, the Prince. He always preaches the ends justify the means. That's what we're feeling. We're being pushed and pushed and pushed, and you guys are, no one's giving us a strategic plan. No one's giving us a reason why you're moving these poor children. No one said, well, it's this. Nobody has agenda. I've sat through probably about 5-hour discussion meetings, and no one has come up with a legitimate saying, you are doing this because of this. Put the kids in front. Put the kids in front. Nobody else. We don't need nothing else. Optics. Leadership. I got my response. It's not all about money.
T. Washington.
Come on now.
I am simply going to read the speech I gave at the last ever early college day because none of the board members nor Dr. Wright was able to be there today. Even though we're invited. A special thank you goes to the parents, guardians for your commitment and support for the early college program over the years. Having your support was critical in helping our students keep up with their studies and showcase to the Richmond community what they have to offer. Graduation is not the end, it's just the beginning. For those who don't know me, I'm Miss Washington, aka Mama Bear. And for the last 8 years at the Hibbert Early College Preparatory Academy, I have taught various subjects in 6th grade math, social studies, science, and PLTW. I am honored but sad to be giving this farewell speech to the last early college graduates. I will try to make this speech brief, but don't be surprised if it takes a while. So today, 8th graders, you are about to graduate from a school that has cherished your presence, enjoyed your lovely humor, and encouraged your curiosity and inspiration over the years. We are forever thankful to your parents that they trusted us with your education these past 4 years. A graduation ceremony is always such a special occasion, the culmination of years of hard work, the actualization of goals attained, and the acknowledgement of successes achieved. So it's only fitting that today we commemorate the road that we all have traveled together these past few years. It has truly been a journey that started with tentative steps perhaps, but one that has taken us to remarkable heights. Yes, we have encountered some trials and tribulations along the way, persevered, and we came out stronger than ever before. We have experienced so many magical moments and created memories that will fondly be remembered in years ahead. Henry Ford wisely said, coming together is beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. As you look back over the last few years, certainly there was beginning, whether you came in 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. And thankfully, there was also progress. And yes, undeniably, we have been successful as we see you graduate here today. And now here you stand, after 4 years of forcing you to listen to me in science class. Here we are for the final time. There are so many things I wish I could tell you before you head off to Richmond High School.
Have 1 minute.
But I know you will learn most things on your own. You're about to enter a world that desperately needs your help. You will be torn in 1,000 different directions and asked to make choices almost every second of every day. Choices that will be yours and yours alone, because that's what life is. A series of choices that both defines your character and puts you to path in life. I'll keep this brief. However, actually, don't skip all that because we're going 1 through 5 or 3. In the wise words of Nelson Mandela, may your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Do the things you never thought you could do. I promise you, you won't regret it. When you get outside your comfort zone and make the brave choices along your life's path, you'll most likely be surprised at what you've ended up with. Finally, 8th graders, cherish this moment. Look around you and capture some part of this day in your hearts. Be proud that today marks a successful end of one stage in your lives, middle school, and the beginning of a new stage, high school. You can go forward knowing that your teachers feel that you'll be able to meet the challenges ahead, and we are excited about all the new things you're about to learn. Even though early college program is going away, we will always be your early college family. Time. Thank you.
Jaime Perez.
My name is Jaime Perez-Ordino. I am a graduating senior. And to break away from the main topic of tonight, on behalf of the GSA, I've come here to address the long-standing issue of the lack of a gender-neutral bathroom. We have spoken with several administrators over the years, most recently being that in 2020. That's not had any fruition. And so we've come here to address the board about this. LGBTQ plus students have a much greater tendency of exhibiting a lot of mental issues, in particularly suicidality. And studies have shown that the core root of this have been societal rejection of their core identities, that being they are LGBTQ plus. These same studies have also shown that the social acceptance of their identity it works to exponentially reduce that sort of suicidality and that kind of mental anguish. As a school board, it is in your best interest to look out for all your students. That includes the LGBTQ plus community. You can validate their identities by implementing a gender-neutral bathroom. We're aware that plans have been approved to renovate the bathrooms over in RHS. I think it would behoove you guys to look into this sort of implementation, and we invite you all to come speak with us, and we can answer all your questions about this sort of thing. It ensures that trans students can attend RHS without that extra worry, that extra mental anguish that comes with having to go about their daily lives
1 minute.
with the rejection of their identities. It would save them mental anguish and it would save their lives. And to address all these teachers back here, it would behoove you all to communicate clearly all of them and to check your ulterior motives and be much more direct about what your actual intentions are. As a former early college student from Hibbert, as a member of Cohort 8, I am proud to stand in solidarity and to help my teachers, and especially my early college teachers in their time of need when they have helped me and my fellow cohort. Thank you.
James Freiberger.
Oh, salutations. Most of you may know me as the student body president of Richmond High School, as well as one of the founders of the Peace and Advocacy Council. Today I'm here to follow up on some of Jaime's statements regarding the implementation of gender-neutral bathrooms at Richmond High School. So the first thing I want to address is potential concerns. The first is expense. That's true, however, conveniently, to my knowledge, you guys are doing some restroom renovations over the summer. So, how convenient, right? The second is inappropriate behavior. Now, however, if you're under the assumption that there already is a way to prevent inappropriate behavior in the bathrooms at Richmond High School, I have some unfortunate news for you. Vaping and kids fighting in the bathroom, things like that, is a separate battle and one that is important. But actually, the implementation of these gender-neutral restrooms, especially with like single-stall or multi-stall restrooms, may incorporate an element of privacy that would actually make them more safe. Or another idea is even and this might be hard with the renovation. Something else is you could incorporate restrooms adjacent to some teachers' rooms as well, and someone may be less likely to partake in inappropriate behavior if the restroom's connected to their teacher's room. Now, another thing I really want to emphasize is there are direct benefits for y'all as well for this implementation. Well, students will have improved mental health, and with that, graduation rates go up, dropout rates go down, and I'm sure we all love higher graduation rates, especially considering a good part of the funding comes from that as well. Richmond High School will be exemplified as a school that supports equity, increase both student and teacher pride and positivity. I mean, we've had transgender staff before, and this could act as a motive for employment as well. If people know Richmond High School as somewhere that is equitable, then people may be more likely to, both stay and apply. Thank you. As aforementioned by Jaime here, the board is ultimately representative of both teachers, parents, but also students. And we have a growing LGBTQ population within Richmond High School. So if we really want to represent them, then let's work towards creating a more equitable environment. My last statement is not something I prepared for, but I was inspired by y'all to make. As a first-generation college student and someone who grew up in an impoverished and abusive household, the early college program was really vital in me making it to where I am. I don't think I'd be standing here had I not experienced the guidance, and leadership, and connection I had with the early college program. So take it from a student himself who was in the early college program. This was a really, really valuable thing for me. Thank you very much.
Jennifer Hartman.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Hartman. I'm an applied skills teacher at Richmond High School, and I'm also the Gay Straight Alliance or Gender and Sexuality Alliance co-sponsor, along with Mary Ann Avery. As a follow-up to the comments you've heard from our members this evening, I would first like to express how proud I am of these members of our group for advocating for themselves, their friends, their peers, and staff members of Richmond High School and Richmond Community Schools. The need for gender-neutral bathrooms has been a topic of conversation for our group for some time now, as we initially met with the RHS administrative team in 2020 with hopes of being able to present to the Board of Trustees at that time. Shortly after that meeting, we experienced the COVID pandemic, virtual learning, hybrid learning, along with all of the other changes that came along with that. And that was not able to take place at that time. This is an issue that our group feels very passionate about, as you've heard from these two gentlemen this evening. Last month, we revisited the issue with the RHS administrative team, and then we decided that it was time to bring it to the Board of Trustees. I encourage you not only to hear their words, but to listen to their voices, who are brave enough to speak up and attempt to make a positive change within their school. Over the last 2 years, RCS has made a huge push to support the social emotional well-being of students and staff. As our number of transgender, non-binary, and gender fluid students and staff in our district continue to rise, it's important to learn by supporting them in the school and work environment. The inclusion of gender-neutral bathrooms in RCS buildings and at RHS is a step in the right direction as supporting their mental health.
You have 1 minute.
In conclusion, I would like to extend an open invitation to the Board of Trustees to attend one of our meetings in the upcoming school year. Thank you.
Karen Ball. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Karen Ball. I'm a 9th and 10th grade early college English teacher at Richmond High School. And confrontation and public speaking are two things I normally try to avoid. But this evening I feel compelled to respond to a letter sent to us on May 3rd on behalf of the board, as well as to the more recent staffing decisions. Your letter did not appease my concerns, but in fact increased them. In a political season of gaslighting, lies, and spins, this letter has me annoyed. It's a toxic and misdirection and sincerity. There have indeed been many changes this school year. Leaders who have served us well are being unceremoniously demoted. You say you are confident that these changes will make RCS stronger and propel us forward. What is the evidence and logic behind this statement? What is your vision? Hundreds of your employees have eyes and ears and have been led successfully by the people you are dismissing. In my experience, particularly, Jennifer O'Brien navigated our system as an interim with foresight and clarity through COVID. During a time when fear, paranoia, and chaos seemed predictable, she created a stable yet flexible culture so we could continue to meet the needs of our students and community. On the other hand, during a time when trust, stability, and predictability should be making a comeback, I feel myself spiraling in a toxic environment. I am unsure of who is making these decisions or why. What criteria are being used? Who's next? If indeed the lived experience of hundreds of employees are somehow misinformed, and these changes are in the best interest of RCS, why were deadlines that could have made these decisions physically responsible missed? Why are we spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on positions that could be filled at a fraction of the cost? I do not have confidence that you are making decisions that will make us stronger or propel us further. 1 minute. Okay, I'll skip the insurance part, although when you say that you are, you deserve the money because the time that you spend that's unpaid and you're talking to teachers, you do not know your target audience. I'm baffled by the decision to return early college students and teachers from Pittsburgh to their home school in the 11th hour. I have known early college would cease to exist by that name in conjunction with self at the end of last school year. I can't imagine being told in late May that I'm being reassigned and my students displaced. This transition has been handled, or more accurately, not been handled in a way which is inexcusable. The move to investigate a STEM or STEAM replacement really has nothing to do with the mission of early college program was charged with. It appears to be a reactive rather than a proactive decision made to spin a situation that has not been adequately addressed during the last year. Time. You put me in a difficult decision. I love my job, but I'm not in a toxic environment, and I hope you make the changes necessary that I can stay.
I apologize if I get this one wrong. I think it's Tea, T-E-A.
Is it not TRA?
Maybe TIA. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So, wow, guys, I do not have a barn burner of a speech like some of the people here, but I will say, like, of the people, like, in front of me and Jay, I feel, like, so supported, and I love seeing, like, all of us here together, like, standing up for pretty much a common cause, and that cause is us not being as valued as we think that we should be. Because every day I go into school and every day I try my best for all my kids. And I love all of them. And I want them to feel like the teachers at RCS are there, you know, giving their all. But some of us can't give our all. Some of us have to work 7 days a week. Some of us have to work, 2 or 3 jobs to support who we have that we love. And our paras, I don't know how they make it. I don't know how they afford their groceries, how they afford their rent. I wouldn't have stayed at RHS if it weren't for some very, very special paras that I had my first year. I had lunch with them every day. They told me how stuff works. And as a new teacher, I'm not going to say I didn't feel supported by other teachers, but I felt like a fish out of water. Those paras were in my room every day saying, oh, Tia, here, this is how Mr. Bennett does it. This is how this person does it. I know you haven't taught the Crucible before, but here's how other teachers, they've been there. And I don't know how they're there. But I feel like some of the people that I have in my day-to-day life, they support me super duper well. What I felt really called out by, and really it was kind of offensive to me when I heard, hey guys, I don't want any problems, but we're over capacity, everything like that. Like, what kind of problems are we gonna get? Thank you. I want to feel welcomed here. I want to feel like every word I have to say is landing. And, I love working here at RHS. I have always had such amazing people in my life here. I've had so many people tell me what I do well, what I need to work on, and I feel like I've grown as a human being so much here, and I love it here. But every year I've taught, I've been told it's been a wild year. Sorry, I'm an RHS teacher, teach English 9th and 10th, this is my 3rd year. So my very first year of full-time teaching, I taught at the 5th grade level for like 2 weeks. And then Ronnie Swango a while ago, he quit, and so I got his position, and I was thrilled because as much as I love teaching, I am not prepared for the little ones. Okay, I think we all have a different age group, and mine is the bigger ones. So coming in 2 weeks into the school year, whatever it was, that was wild, right? A new teacher, and it's like, oh crap, there goes my 5th grade curriculum. Burn that, start again, and everybody was super awesome. And then I'll finish up in like 30 seconds tops. But every then the next year, it was, COVID and all that wild stuff. And every year, all the teachers that I love and respect and think are so awesome keep telling me, wow, was the worst year yet. And I was like, oh, cool. Do I ever get to have a good year? Do I get to know what that's like? And it doesn't, it just doesn't feel like we're going that way, is what I'm going to end with.
Thanks, Newton.
Hi, board members. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. My name is Tess Newton, formerly Tess Shiven. Most of my students know me by Miss Shiven, even though I recently got married. I'm a Spanish teacher at RHS. I'm completing my 14th year teaching. 12 of these years have been served at RHS. I'm also an RHS alum. I'm also a parent of an RHS student. I'm here today to express my frustration and disappointment with RCS. I decided when I graduated from Earlham College to stay in Richmond and to get back to the community where I grew up. I waited eagerly for a position to open up at RHS while I was teaching at Seton for the first 2 years, and could not wait to teach in the same classroom where I learned Spanish. I spent many great years here at RHS and will hold them dear to my heart. But now it is time to make a change. I'm leaving. Yes, I'm leaving RHS. For similar reasons to some people on this board a couple of years ago who also left. This decision to leave has been brought about by many reasons. One of the biggest reasons is I am a dedicated, passionate, and highly effective teacher who is overworked and underpaid. So I'm addressing a couple of things here. The insurance issue, as well as a topic that has been ignored year after year after year by the school board. And that is, I fall into that category of teachers who have dedicated a lot of time here, who've been basically ignored.
In 1 minute.
So again, I'm overworked and underpaid. I built up our AP Spanish program over the last 8 years and have had amazing results. Yet, new hires with less experience and the same education get paid more than me and have less responsibility. In order to make ends meet, I'm one of those people who have had to have at least a second job, sometimes 4, tutoring, working for IU, working for the clerk's office every single break that I've gotten to make ends meet and to pay off my student loans that I so desperately needed in order to become a teacher. I've had to keep, again, at least one part-time job. I've started teaching 14 years ago. This has created a low morale among teachers and an environment that no one cares to work in. And that is why I'm leaving.
Kelly, you're up. I just want to say at the outset, there's no way I'm going to get my remarks in because of the no prior warning on the abbreviation of the time. Teachers give above and beyond time. The fact that the board can't see clear to allow teachers to speak their full 5 minutes is, again, another sign of the incredible disrespect and devaluing that the board has for its employees. With all due respect to my friend Mr. Cross, he's doing his due diligence.
Kelly, we're not here to call names. If
Oh,
you have a
excuse
point,
me, but I believe I was called out at the last meeting and I didn't hear a gavel.
please proceed.
Like, we're gonna do it. Let's be consistent. Yeah. Yeah. And I was calling him my friend. How is that calling him out?
Please proceed.
Please give me an answer.
Are you giving up your time?
What I was gonna say is my friend Mr. Cross doing his due diligence, but just because it's the law doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do.
Amen.
As president of the association, I was given a solemn directive by the REA Executive Board. The directive was twofold. The first directive of the Executive Board was for me to conduct a survey of the REA membership to determine the level of confidence that members currently have in the ability of the superintendent and the RCS board. The second directive was to conduct a survey in regard to the RCS board. The vote of no confidence in the superintendent's leadership was precipitated by multiple issues and concerns, including, but not limited to, the following: failure to engage in meaningful discussion on issues concerning staffing during the May 4th, May 9th, and May 18th corporate discussion meetings. With regard to those proposed staffing changes, using corporate discussion to inform but not to discuss, as required by Indiana code. The inability to provide a rational the inability to provide a rationale, answer questions, or provide supporting evidence for the changes that could be justified with any intellectual integrity or withstand reasonable challenges and questioning. Failure to provide employees who've been removed from their positions with any performance evaluation evidence or rationale supporting the change. Disrespecting, devaluing, and demeaning employees who have served RCS with professional competence, fidelity, and dedication, which we've observed right here. A climate of mistrust and fear precipitated by leadership changes and administrative action. Failure to ensure that accurate financial information was provided to the RCS bargaining team during the traditional bargaining window and during the period of mediation. Failure to provide for corporate discussion information requested regarding the use and accountability for ESSER funds, which are intended to address learning loss due to the COVID pandemic. Failure to exercise due diligence in ensuring that the protocols of the group health insurance plan are adhered to with regard to the change in the insurance premium rates for the RCS board, despite me notifying both the administration and the board on multiple occasions that they had not followed the guidelines of the trust or their own resolution. The vote of no confidence in the superintendent was overwhelming. 92.2% voted no confidence in the board is the result of, but not limited to, the following: failure of the RCS board to operate in good faith and to engage in the transparency required by Indiana code with regard to providing financial information and documents during the traditional bargaining window and during mediation. The action of the board in unanimously approving a resolution providing board members health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, and life insurance at a premium rate of $1 each at a time when these folks were subjected to $480 increase per year. The refusal of the board to engage in conversation and discussion with leadership, REA leadership, following a request by REA leadership to meet to share our concerns to avoid this exact situation regarding the board's resolution and change in RCS bylaw 0144.1. The stated reason provided for not talking to the exclusive representative of the teachers of Richmond Community Schools, an organization that represents the vast majority of the teachers at RCS, was that it wouldn't be prudent. It's worth reminding everyone at this time that prudent means acting with or showing care and thought for the future. I would suggest that it was actually imprudent to decide that a better course of action on the part of the board was to not meet with the REA leadership, a decision that could have easily prevented some of the challenges in this relationship between the bargaining unit and the board that exists today. The failure of the board to adhere to the terms of its own resolution with regard to the insurance, which I mentioned earlier with regard to the superintendent. Extension of the superintendent's contract for a period of 5 years, months prior to the completion of the first year of service and without the completion of his first performance evaluation. The teachers of RCS are held to a much higher standard of accountability with regard to their performance evaluation than the board has required of the highest educational and administrative leader of the district. Based upon the experiences of REA and its members, whether at the bargaining table, the corporate discussion table, or elsewhere, it's apparent that the traditional role of the RCS board as a governing body charged with oversight of the performance of the superintendent has encroached into administrative areas of focus that are traditionally reserved for the superintendent and his administrative team. In doing so, the board has hampered the ability of the superintendent to lead. Never has this been clearer than during the 3 most recent corporate discussion meetings. The vote of no confidence in the RCS board was even more overwhelming. 98.7% voted. The survey was driven by the actions of the board and the superintendent, which have resulted in a climate of mistrust, fear, and doubts about the ability of this administration and this board to lead RCS. This is where we are today, in this moment. For the good of the children that we serve, the families that we serve, the communities that we serve, this can't continue. The people you see behind me deserve better. The students they teach deserve better. The people who support us in a multitude of ways deserve better. It's time.
All right. Moving on to consent item. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for approval for consent items 4.01 through 4.05.
Good job, we can hear you.
Can't hear anything here. I'd like to have my 3 minutes back early. I'm a para and I should be heard.
All right, that's enough, please. We're trying to conduct a book business. Continue, Dr. Wright.
As I mentioned, President Weber, trustees, and patrons, teachers, and other visitors here with us this evening, I come before you to ask for approval of consent items 4.01 through 4.05 as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
With the addendum, as it was in.
I'll make motion by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
Before you vote, just, we need to read into the record what those items are. President Berkeley, just by agenda. So 4.1 is approval of minutes. 4.02 human resources. 3 accounts. Payable.
Okay.
4.04 financial report and.
Just take a moment, let the room clear.
Sure.
I'm sitting there having goosebumps go by.
Sing votes.
I actually wrote that down. So, all right. We're ready to just start back with the consent item, Dr. Wright.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought it was already.
Mr. Stevens,
Oh, that's right. Those are.
Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Cross are added to it that you read off the agenda or the consent items of what they were. I'll read those off again since it was loud and maybe not been heard on the audio.
You are left. I mean, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm a disabled vet and I have hearing loss. Speak up just a tad.
Yep. The motion has been made and was it seconded?
Yes.
It was seconded on the consent items of 4.01 approval of minutes, 4.02 human resources, 4.03 accounts payable, 4.04 monthly financial report, and 4.05 transfers. I would wait for Mrs. Stoltz at your will. Sorry, Jay, I don't have that coach's voice anymore.
Can't hear either.
I'm about as loud as I can, man. That vocal cord I found a couple years ago. Got in. So.
We are considering questions or comments on the consent items. Does any board member have a question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to action items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that our Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Karen Scout, approach with action items 5.01, donations, and action item 5.02, curriculum and associates, legal service contract. Mrs. Scout.
Okay, good evening. Tonight before you, there are 54 donations. We would like to thank all of these sponsors. We had a number of donations for student scholarships at RHS, as well as some athletic scholarships, some choir donations to their program, BPA donations as they traveled to nationals, and a number of donations for the 4th grade Wilderness Ridge camping trip that Charles Elementary went on just a couple weeks ago. So tonight I ask for your approval for $16,189 in donations.
Thank you, Mrs. Scout. You have to entertain a motion.
I would love the motion that we approve the donations.
Motion by Brad Walton,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
Just as we do every week or every board meeting, we're just overwhelmed at the generosity of the community, and thank you very much.
Agreed. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.02. I get the authority. Back to you, Mrs. Scout.
Okay, so before you tonight is a service agreement for Elevation, and this is an annual renewal that we do with Curriculum Associates LLC. It's for the 2022-2023 school year. This is an English learners program management platform that organizes the EL student data and supports critical meeting and monitoring processes. It also enables accurate reporting and supports instructional planning for EL students. So before you tonight is the annual renewal with Curriculum Associates LLC for Elevation Services.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to approve that.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.03, NIET PD. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for approval as recommended that the board accept the contract of Richmond Community Schools from NIET for administrative professional development for the summer 2022 as presented.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we approve the contract and I.
Motion by Jeff Slifer, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.04, RAM request. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I yet again am here to receive approval for recommendation and action item 5.04, the RAM request for alcohol service for their Indiana Humanities film screening as presented. So,
Thank you. Happy to entertain a motion.
No, wait a minute, it's more appropriate if it comes from over there.
I would like to make the motion. Thank you for deferring.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
I'll second.
second by Jeff Slifer. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to policy review and update. We have two policies for second reading and approval. Happy to read them off or entertain a motion. Policy 6.01, or excuse me, item 6.01, policy 8550, charter school second reading and approval.
I move to approve 6.01 policy 8550, the charter schools, on second reading.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
Second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
I think it's important to note that this policy addresses those charters that would be sponsored by the Richmond Community Schools. As it's obvious from the text of it, but that's the limited context in which it would become relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 6.02, policy 8700, relations with special interest groups, second reading. Happy to entertain a motion.
All motion that we approve 6.02, policy 8700, relations with special interest groups.
Thank you. Motion by Brad Walton.
Second.
Second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 6.03, policy 4463, credit from non-public schools, homeschool, first reading.
I'll make a motion that we approve move on to second reading. Policy 4463, credits from non-public schools and homeschools. And I would also like to make a motion that we approve 6.04, policy 4463.01, correspondence, internet courses, or move to second reading.
Motion by Brad Walton on the two items, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments on those two policies? Moving to second reading. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to board reports and discussion. We have some report backs on our working groups. Item 7.01 is the educational working group. Do we have any, I believe there's a meeting. Yep.
And this is also just if you don't mind, this is a reminder that we're trying to make sure that we're more intentional in communicating with the community and staff. So we're going to start putting this specifically on every agenda, just to force us to remind us, to help us. There may be some times that they're on the agenda that we've not had meetings since our last board meeting. So if that's the case, and there's been no action, then we simply report that. But we're not all on all of the committees, but we felt like they're important enough that just like tonight, we have heard some conversation tonight that there has been some discussion on. So it'd be interesting. I think this could be one of the vehicles that we use to help improve our communication. So, but I just wanted to preface that these will become a standard listing on all of our future under board reports and discussion.
Thank you. So
I guess as part of the education planning working group, it's we have been feel like we talk about stuff and we think we're going in a direction, and then we get feedback that makes it more difficult to make that decision. So then it gets pushed back a little longer, and then we are in a place where we're trying to figure out what we're doing with not adequate time, I guess. I feel like we had the conversation as we heard from one of our folks that we've known the high school level, that this is not, that early college isn't able to continue for a variety of reasons that I understand anyway.
And accreditation.
Right. So that left us, where do we go with that? Where do we go with that when folks from 5 to 8 don't have a path forward beyond 8? So the conversation was, and from, I don't remember how long has it been since we had the listening sessions? Or the
focus group.
focus groups.
Took
It's been,
surveys and had over 600 people
yeah.
from the community.
So some ideas from those focus groups.
Like 2.5.
Yeah,
years.
it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Some feedback from there. The idea was that we develop some sort of a STEM or STEAM program. Those are the conversations we've had. We had how many people involved? How many on the STEAM committee?
30 to 35.
Yeah, high 20s, low mid 30s. Okay. A group of those folks visited multiple STEM area schools, and I can't remember. I don't have my packet in front of me. From a number of places, came back with some ideas, some thoughts from there. We've had the conversation what that should look like. Conversation was then, okay, so what do we do with these? What is it? 3 grades? 4 grades? 4 grades. So what do we do with those 4 grades? And we really kicked around those thoughts for a while. Could it be supported? How does it best work for those students? And that's kind of where we landed. That went to discussion. My understanding is it still has gone to discussion again, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, see, but this is where I think it would be important for us. This is what I like about it being on the agenda, and I'd like for it to force us to have conversation, because to support what you're saying, we were approached over 2 years ago that we weren't going to pass the certification because there were changes in the teacher certification. There's lots of reasons that the program was being eliminated at the high school. So it's been talked about in circles. What bothers me about this is the circles haven't reached evidently everybody, because if you no longer have a high school program, then the whole reason why we developed the middle school program was to be a feeder program for the high school. So, I mean, and I can go back to the creation of early college with Jackie Slickley when she came in from with Ivy Tech and created the program, got it started, and I mean, I could go through the whole process. And so what bothers me, there's a lot of things about it that bothers me because it's been a topic for quite some time. What we've got to learn to do a better job of is, and this is, I'm not blaming any particular person, but we've got to do a better job of making sure that we're connecting all the dots. So there were a lot of meetings held with the high school. You know, what are we going to do with the high school program? How are we going to do this? How the middle school program comes in? But we didn't do a good enough job, I believe, in informing the middle school program at the same time that those discussions were taking place at the high school. So I think there's a lot of people that's involved in that program that have known about it for quite some time. But I think the finality of us publicly saying the program is going away and the middle school program is going to have to go away too because it's no longer a high school program. We should have verbally announced this 2.5 years ago. So some of the comments I heard tonight concerning just the early college piece is, I'm quite surprised that this is news to especially some of the staff that got up and spoke. So, it clearly says we have to do better on our communication.
Yeah.
Because we have clearly been talking about it for over 2.5 years. And probably, if we were talking to the staff involved at the high school or the early college program, I bet they've been talking about it longer than that. So, I think that's one of the things that I hope that if we put this type of stuff on the agenda, then it's just another way that communication can go out. And people, if there are concerned, ask questions. Because I understand the heartfelt being a parent or kid involved in a program. You love this program. I mean, we've all experienced that. I experienced that with both of my kids. My daughter was in Discovery. My son was in Logos. I mean, those programs felt threatened every year. So I understand that. But for some reason, we need to do a better job of, like they said tonight, the vision. Put it out there. Here's, I can go back. I can remember talking as a board, even when Linda, I don't even know if Linda's still here or not. When Linda was on the board, the STEAM or STEM program at Hibbert has been a conversation for 10 years. Dr. Morf brought it in. So, I mean, I'm not trying to justify anything.
No.
But what I'm saying is, we're going to have to figure out multiple forms, multiple ways to communicate, because if we had 100 people out here, there's going to be 100 different ways that they're going to receive information. So how do we get all of those avenues? How do we meet all of those avenues? Because I would have, if I was a betting man, and someone would have said, I'll bet you $100 that not everybody knows about early college going away, I'd have taken the bet. I'd have lost $100. So, shame on me for not, and that's actually part of the reason why we've been actually talking about that more in a public meeting. We've brought it up 2 or 3 different times in our board systems. So, how do we do that communication? I mean, Mr. Cross.
Well, I would just heartily endorse what Member Slifer is saying, but we have to go back and let's take a look at the big picture. Each of these working groups is an advisory committee, not a final action committee.
Right.
And obviously, and you folks know the time you spend, and there's been some discussions in other contexts about how much time you do or don't spend, but you know how much it is. And so the reason for these groups was to be efficient in the investment of time, gather information, and if possible, reach consensus. If you can't reach consensus, there's nothing wrong with a majority and minority report, but at any event, it's a report that needs to come back to this board in a public meeting. So I think it's probably, we've probably been a little lax in not having those updates on the agenda. I think they've been a little informal, but I think it's just like our structured policy review that we now have in public meetings. I think this is very advisable to make sure that we don't just let those advisory groups perhaps think a little beyond where their authority is intended to end and this board's collective authority is intended to begin. So I would totally support Member Slifer's suggestion.
I'm just going back over the years, because I'm pending 16 years of being on the board. And I just go back and I know I've been in situations where, for example, let's take this early college as a great example, or logos changing or moving in years past. There's nothing worse than being a board member and coming to a board meeting and not being hit in the public for the very first time of some very big controversial project happening. So the whole intent for me, when I look at the vision of the structure of these committees, is for those who want to understand more, that ability is there. For those who need to understand more, I'm not a person that can make a decision overnight. I have to process. And I love Karen, but she can attest I can be a pain because I always want information, right, Karen? So, but since I'm the type of person that has to process, I don't like surprises. I don't like coming to a board meeting and making a major decision. And I hate even worse, someone coming to me and saying I have to make a decision in 2 weeks. That's because then when I get forced to have to make a decision in 2 weeks, my answer is no. You know, so that's the whole part is I really think it's important that we do a better job of looking into the future, a better job of forecasting. I don't know what we could have done differently about the early college situation, but there's a lot of other people involved in early college than just the middle school. We have a whole staff at the high school. We got all the kids, and what it started to where it is today. They're two completely different programs. They don't even hold the same principles today that they held when they started. So, I mean, early college, I might get people upset for saying this, but early college is there now only in Maine. It's not the same program today, nor has it been recently. That's what it was created for in the beginning. I mean, they used to do parent interviews and involvement in contracts with kids, and the level of involvement was such a higher level that's changed. Some for the good, some for the bad. I'm not really here to discuss or debate that, but so as a board member, I'm like the staff members out here. I want to ask questions. I want to collect data. I want to understand what it is. And then, yes, sometimes we're going to make a decision that's not going to make everyone happy. I understand that. You don't run for the school board with the thought in mind that you're going to make everybody happy. Because if you run with that thought, you might as well get off. So that's my soapbox.
All right. So I do believe educational planning met last week. And I believe they're proceeding. I know the early college discussions are in corporate discussion, I believe. I believe there's been some movement on the STEAM initiative. And I think I think right now it looks like it's not the next school week, but targeting the year after for a start. And that may be a phase in or some other things, but a new program like that takes a lot of work, and we'd rather not rush things at this point. I don't know if I've missed anything. Just a quick update.
And part of that process too is we want to report out on what the discussion was at those meetings. So all the board members are taking notes, and so I hope next time that we come, if there's been any action, that we can actually talk about what we talked about.
All right, moving on to 7.02, building and grounds.
Well, actually, sorry.
Sorry.
The educational planning, and I believe in discussion, the concept of librarians is still being discussed. Am I correct in thinking that? Just what the plan is, that we have not made any decisions, it's still being talked about. Is that right?
I believe there's been some change of that.
Yeah, no, at this juncture, I believe it is understood that our media center specialists will be returning next year in their capacity they find themselves in now. Throughout the meaningful discussion that we had with our education association, it was understood and found that indeed there was opportunity to establish and provide for collaborative thought amongst those media center specialists and provide supports they need in order to assure that an equitable experience is shared throughout the course of our district. And so the media center specialists indeed will be returning in the same capacity to find themselves in that. If indeed is approved by our trustees, if you all come with that decision.
Nope, just wanted to kind of hear where we were on that. So, all right, sorry.
No. Anything else?
And I'm just on 7.02 and 7.03 finance and buildings. We have not had a meeting since our last board meeting. We have a facilities meeting tomorrow at 1 and a finance meeting next week. So there's been no action. There's been no discussion on any of those.
But I did want to highlight the McGuire Hall renovations are coming along and near the end. I was in communication with Green Director Sean Dingworth, who has invited any of us who are wanting to see kind of what that looks like. I'm planning to go over and check it out. I'd love to see just kind of where we are.
I heard they had a seating on the stage. So.
That's what I hear. So I'd love to actually see it.
Seating is moving forward. And just finance is working on some.
Buildings are finance.
Yeah, we've kind of mixed these up a little bit. We're looking at just digging a little deeper into budgetary issues, so that we can, as a board, have more informed discussion. There's a lot of details, the finance group, and so the better understanding the board has, better off we all are.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm concerned. I gotta circle back to education planning. I'm concerned, like Mr. Cross said, we need to have, I feel like I'm worried that there are central office folks who are waiting for us to have a conversation about it. I just want to make sure I have clarification on where we are. It has gone to discussion. There has been discussion about whether early college students the end of this year will go back into buildings or not, correct? And those discussions, I guess I'm not sure on where that has gone with discussion. I know what we've talked about. I know that what our understanding was in the education planning work was that as those have continued, and speak up, those of you that were there, what I heard was that as those have moved forward, as they were looking for those groups, the incoming 7th, moving to 8th, 6th, moving to 7th, those groups they expected some people to move out so that they were going to be fairly small groups. So for our purposes to keep that going with the smaller group, like they were not going to be the size that they were shrinking. Each of those years were shrinking. Is that what you heard, what those of you that were in attendance heard as well? That was how it got to the point where it went to discussion that, hey, it's not for those groups that are shrinking. I don't remember the numbers, but they were going to be,
I want to say it was like
in the teens.
Level was 12.
It was going to be in the
teens. It was less than 45 students.
So that was how we got to the idea that went to discussion to say, hey, I think if we're going to do this, I think I've heard concern expressed that, oh, well, if early college goes away, then they're going to say there's not enough space. That is not at all the intention. Everything that we have looked at as far as looking towards a STEAM or STEM program is very focused on building on what we have there and repurposing a lot of those spaces that are currently not used or just holding old file cabinets and making those into areas that are usable for not only that program, but there's been a lot of discussion about that program being a place where students from each of the elementaries can come and do some STEM activities that will ideally get those students excited about the potential of being a part of that program. That being said, I think we as a board need to clearly state where we think we are and whether, I don't know what, maybe you can speak to the current status of the discussion as it's been discussed. Is that making sense to folks in discussion that this is where we're going? And
Before Dr. Ray takes his floor, I'll add, I think it is in discussion, so I don't know exactly what, I don't know what Dr. Rock will say. However, I will say that, the committee, and I've been a casual, and that's not the right word, I'm not on the committee, but I have attended some meetings. When I've been able to, because we only can, it's limited, so only 3 board members can attend a meeting, so I can only attend if there's an open spot. So if we have those occasions, I've been able to, but the charge has been made to the committee, and I believe this is to identify those current students and try to serve. It's not like they're being forgotten, or it's not a thought. It's very important that the rising 8th graders particularly are in some way thought of, cared for, and while it's not going to look probably like most people want it to look, that's been in charge of that committee, and I believe you guys have put effort and work into how do we consider those students. And I just wanted to say that.
Well, not only how do we consider them, but how do we honor their efforts up to now, and can we build in obviously not the same experience, but some sort of a cohort for that, particularly that group that's been there for 3 years. Can we create somewhat of a cohort with some of those folks that they have been working with for that final
And
year?
we have actually, that's why it was interesting that the only conversation tonight was the middle school. Really, because we have that same question or problem for the high school. We talked about 4 grades, right, but you had graduating 8th graders, so you're really talking about it's reduced to 3, but we still have that same issue with what about the students this year moving to the high school, or last year moving to the high school? So we still have, and that's something that the high school I know has been working with for the last couple of years, because I know the programming has changed in such a way to try to accommodate those students, because you can't eliminate a program from its foundation and a structure that spans 8 years and not has, there's just no way that you cannot impact 7 levels of grades, period. So the decision to move early college away from RCS was not our decision. The state made that decision for us with the way they changed their qualifications. So,
well, and there's no question we have not done.
Well, I just want to make sure that we don't just concentrate on the middle school, because we also have the high school students that, there were 2 speakers tonight that were cohort graduates, I found out, that were involved in early college. So it clearly has an impact all the way up to the high school level.
And I think part of our working groups have been to bring people in who are pertinent to, I know the principal at the high school and other administrators from the high school have been part of that working group. We needed to help us understand, and the principal at Edward to help us understand the numbers, so that when we look at what changes are being made and what students are being impacted, how can we address their needs?
Especially since we're talking really now about just a class or a cohort group of students that are not associated with the theories of the program as it was created. So kind of tough to balance that. So, if I'm going to take a hit for that, then we got to take a hit for it. I understand, but we still got to worry about the kids.
But I think that's my point, is in the planning group, there's a few of us, it's to bring the ideas back to the full board. So I think we need to think about, where are we? Are we all good with that going ahead, going away, and those kids going back in with the idea that we want to try to create some of those, be able to maintain some of those relationships. Clearly not in the same way that they are currently at Hibbard,
But there's another step in that process. I don't mean to overtalk you at all.
Eric?
Because the last meeting, even though I'm not on the committee, I did attend.
Yeah.
And there's people, that have put together a thought process of what we want to do. Do we want to hire a consultant or a professional person to help develop, all this kind of stuff. So the bad thing about that is that was the last educational meeting. But we can't move forward on that until it gets through the discussion. For them to have a reaction, and they either have to help to figure out how we can facilitate the conversation to move it through discussion quicker, because the process itself is going to give us a natural, we have to worry about the timing of the board, we have to worry about the timing of the discussion, we got to worry about how that information flows. If it's discussed at discussion and they have questions or they need more information, which they have the right to ask for, then that's going to push it back a week or two. I don't get involved in the discussion, so I don't know how streamlined that process is. But we have yet to hear back from discussion on the thoughts of the direction of that last meeting, which references, let's go ahead and we found a consultant that we could work with to help us develop this.
Yeah,
I'm
not necessarily meaning those pieces.
There's a lot of steps in this process.
Yeah.
It isn't just here.
And so if I can just try to bring clarity to what it is that you all are referencing, I believe the original question, and I think the question that continues to re-arise is whether or not, and Mr. Stewart, I know that you're fine, Mr. Stewart, you continue on. Okay. I believe that I'm well equipped in saying as such. With regard to the conversations and the dialogue, the meaningful discussions that have occurred, we are at a point now where you all, as a board of trustees, indeed will make a decision as to whether or not, I believe as you're referencing Mr. Moore, we proceed on with the STEM initiative and or look at a ulterior option of either returning sustaining the program as it is and or moving toward the STEM initiative. And so it indeed has gone through, as I understand, the necessary channels
Well, and that's why I'm a little scared to say everything that I know, because I don't want to talk about something that's been in discussion that hasn't had a chance to be beat around. Because some of the ideas that the group put together for it to be presented to discussion, I'm just going to make this up. This is made up. But our group may have said, we want to have 2 or 3 or 4 of the early college teachers have 2 or 3 planning periods to help develop a curriculum. Those types of discussions, because part of my concern is if we're going to do the STEM and if we're going to develop the program at the Hibbert building, then we need to do it with fidelity. We need to put all of our efforts behind it. We need to make sure. Last thing in the world we need to do is start another program without the intentionality of making it the best in the county or the state. So that's my concern is we have to be all in on making this happen. Because if we don't, then the staff they're not going to be happy and they're not going to make it successful because they're the ones that's going to make it successful. So I hear what Keith is saying. We have got to figure out how we can streamline some of these processes and not cut people out, but be able to work It's like anything. The board has always made the decision on major programs and changing or major expenses. You know, that's always come back for the board for approval.
Right, but I guess my point is this conversation that we're having today should have happened a long time ago.
And I agree with that.
Right, I think everybody acknowledges that.
Well, and that's why I'm saying I'm glad it's on the agenda this way, because now we'll put some pressure on not only us but everybody else in the process.
So, but the next question is, how do we? What do we need to do to rectify this? Like, because we go away now, we got what, 2 weeks, and we only have one in June. I feel like we need to have we need to give some direction.
But we can't give that direction until we hear back from discussion, right?
I'm saying about direction as far as where early college.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I may interject, I think the next step logically would be to go ahead and have Mrs. Laudermilk and I have been working to create a strategic plan for the next 3 years and what the growth of that program would be. So I think the next step would be for us to run that back through our STEAM or STEM committee, get some feedback on what that looks like, and then bring that to you at the next board meeting so that we can share what that looks like and you can ask questions and then further develop for next year, because next year right now we'd like to have as the planning year to fully open the following school year. So if you're okay with that timeline, we can present at the next board meeting what that strategic plan looks like for the STEM project.
I'm fine. I'm tickled to death that we're getting some traction and we're moving it, because the flip side of the concern that we also have, and this is why I'm not quite sure what to say because I'm not involved in the discussion process. When it's public and we make a comment, the first thought is real. It's going to happen. So
That's how we got to the conversations that we had today about we're cutting media specialists and all that sort of stuff.
That's the flip side about being more
I agree.
More community. You know, that's if you say it, then that's where we even have to be better on our communication, because we need to be able to communicate the whole paragraph, just not the sentence that we're going to change this. So I don't know if communication is something that is so hard. We try so many different things and it never seems to be enough.
So going back to an original point of this conversation, though, it seems like this discussion actually began, it had its emphasis to its beginning, I should say, about 2.5 years ago. And there are so many things that came about that curbed the discussion. I mean, the public discussion, or even in committee during that time. You're talking about COVID, you're talking about leadership and everything else and all the other things that occurred. And just to bring it again over the last couple of months to a refocus on it, it's actually going back, a discussion that started, looking at it, well before the last 2 or 3 months. But now, you get to the point where state changes and modifies qualifications for programming and everything else during this time. And so it's led us to this point. And it's unfortunate that there was that communication gap over that period of time that led us to now it looks like it all just came out of a bag, out of nowhere. End of my statement.
But I like Don's recommendation. That's a clear action plan. That's a clear.
And I apologize to interject, but just to again bring clarity and to revisit Mr. Moore's question, at this juncture, all what Mr. Sansini was referencing is solely toward the STEM initiative. I believe the question that you had posed is where exactly within the corporate discussions, within the meaningful discussions that have been had, where are we with the process? So as you all, as a board, can arrive at a conclusion pertaining to the early college program. And Mr. Moore, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the nature of what you're referencing is, are we at a juncture? Are we at a point in which a decision has to be made in order for?
I think we're well past it, right? I mean,
It seems like it. And so, and then for the sake of the faculty, staff, and students there within the early college program, and also for the hard work that is being put in motion through many faculty, staff from around the district, as well as our central office leadership. Indeed, this is in the moment in which a decision it has to be made. And I believe that's the gist of what it is that you're asking.
well, and also just as of a week ago, I mean, has there been discussion since our meeting last Monday? We had our last education. There has.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've, as it was alluded to earlier this evening, and just to confirm, we have had here of late this topic has come up in the last 3 corporate discussions. Of what has been shared, it seems as if the hybrid building and programming, as well as even early college, has come up many moons ago. And so this indeed is that time in which.
And am I to understand from your addendum to the board update that, because one of the conversations that took place is with those shrinking cohorts, if you will, those smaller classes, as kids were going to be filtering out for whatever reason. That was kind of the idea. Is it responsible is it fiscally responsible to have 5 teachers dedicated to that smaller number of students? And we had conversations around that. What is our responsibility to these folks? Those sorts of things. And I think that was the direction that the Education Planning Committee had kind of said, with those smaller numbers, can we build a pseudo cohort that would have them in contact with at least one or two of those teachers that they've been with for 3 years, and do it that way? Or do we stay with it that way and take that hit, basically, right? In my understanding from your most recent board update, that is something that's more sustainable now, or fiscally sustainable? I guess what I was asking.
Yes, sir. In what you're referencing in regard to the board update, at this point, indeed, if you all were to arrive at a decision that the faculty, staff, and students within the early college program as it exists, if indeed you all arrive at a decision that they would remain there for 1 year only, as the STEM initiative is being developed thoroughly and thought out with inclusion and collective and collaborative input from faculty, staff from around the district, as well as students and parents and community members. Indeed, we can fiscally be in a position to support such a decision if that is the decision of the board.
I appreciate that, Dr. Wright. I think the thing is, this started when early college and high school went away, so 2.5 years ago. I think a better job could have been made then, including the middle schools. But I think at some point, the board decided to have a feeder program for a program that doesn't exist. I mean, at some point, it doesn't seem to make sense. And I think the board, and I don't want to speak for the board, but generally believes that the STEM initiative is the way to serve students and attract students to RCS in a standalone middle school endeavor. And so I think from the board level, early college is going away. STEAM is coming. That's the thought. Then the administration, as we've charged administration with having a STEAM proposal, it's also what's that transition look like for early college? I mean, I believe that's it. It doesn't make sense that we continue on indefinitely. So how do we serve those students and staff reasonably in the transition point? And I think that's what we're asking. Do we keep Hibbert open another year? Do we transition a cohort and a group to another building? I think that's the question.
Correct.
So,
but we will still have that. We're also making that decision or punting the same decision down the road again next year. The only difference is for 2 levels.
No, I think no. I don't see it punting. I think it's.
But that transition is currently in discussion through the administrative process with REA, I believe. I don't think. I mean, that's been going through that. How early college transitions is currently is at the administrative level being discussed with REA, with those involved, and at some point there will be a recommendation of we feel these are the two options. I mean, if we think we have those recommendations today.
But that's my concern. My concern is that we're saying, hey, we're waiting for a recommendation, and they're saying, hey, we're waiting for the board. I feel like that's how we got to where we are today, with people with 1 day of school left not knowing if they're going to go to early college next year or going back. I mean, clearly the impression is that they are going back to their schools. And again, owning that fully, that's on us, that we have not had that conversation much earlier, and they shouldn't have that. There shouldn't be that confusion at this point.
Have students received a letter and parents? They have. They have. So they've already been told, I guess.
So they are going.
I don't know what the letter says because I have not seen the letter.
The initial letter that was sent out.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, just to clarify, there was one letter. There's only been one letter that has been sent out stating that
This is the one that the program's going to be dissolving, and then we would get more information. And
yes, that indeed.
Here we are. We haven't given.
Yes, there's a new charge that is in motion, and that STEM is indeed that charge, and that the early college program would be modified to meet the charge that is before us.
See, that's been something like you said. I've said it multiple times. Feels like we're spinning our tires, but I think. Part of I can attest for the last few months that I've been involved, because I say we're spinning our tires, but we've also are making efforts. I mean, really, we are making efforts to, well, let's not communicate that yet until it goes through discussion, or let's not do that yet until so we're trying, it's almost like we're trying to, I know this sounds bad, it needn't to sound as bad as it sounds, but it's almost like we're waiting to make the final decision that we or make or choose a direction until we talk to a whole lot of different people, which is right, but we're not closing that. I know the letters are going out. I would have liked to have 6 months ago said this is what we're doing.
But I think that's the point, is when we talk about it in a education planning committee meeting, working group meeting, we can come up with those ideas, but we can't make the decision because we're not the board. So I guess that's what I'm asking. If we can come to some resolution tonight as to where I'm seeing you shaking your head as though, yeah, I would like that. Am I? Yeah.
Yes, sir. And I see Mrs. Stewart shaking her head. Before she left out, I said to myself, I think I took enough notation throughout the course of this. past year and of the experiences that I've gained and gleaned. But yes, at this juncture.
But that's what I'm saying is I think we're
at a point in which
we got big learning curves in all kinds of directions, which got us to here. And I don't think we need to keep talking about how we got here and that we've been for 2.5 hours. But I think we need to walk away from this tonight knowing that it is the will of the 7 of us. One, that students that are in early college are going back into whatever school they would go to, or 2, that we're going to maintain that for another year, right?
Well, I'll be glad to step out on a limb and go first. With the numbers that were presented a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was literally like 12 students for one grade level, and it was under 45 students. I don't remember the exact numbers for 3 grade levels. And I want to say 5 staff members. Could be wrong there. I'm saying, to me, I think we'll be doing our kids a better service of moving those 40 students, 45 students, back into the 2 other middle schools and possibly grab a teacher that's from that group and keep them with a cohort group and get them back into a program. Because if we continue the program as it is now and we serve 5 staff members for 45 students, that's what I'm looking at. And okay, next year 8th grade is going to move to the high school. Now we're going to have 2 more grades.
No, I don't think that's. I don't think we say we're going to continue, but we say in that year.
Right, but we're going to have to move them next year.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we do, there's a whole lot of other things that we have to work on. Because in order for us to have a STEM school or STEAM, whatever develops into any kind of a magnet school, let's just call it that, then there's a lot of issues that we're going to have to worry about, like equity. We're going to probably have to do a lottery system. Well, I mean,
but that's a different issue.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is next year we're going to have 30 students now that have been there for another year with some modified type of program. And we're going to have to decide what we're going to do with those 30 students again next year. Do we form them into fit with what we create and grandfather them? Are we doing those students justice? I mean, those are the questions that we haven't even had a time to ask. So if you're pushing for me to say what we need to do,
well, it's not pushing because I think everybody's on the whole.
Back to the middle school.
I'm going to suggest we take a 15-minute recess. Okay. The educational working group can put a proposal together and bring it back, and we'll have a vote. If that's not okay, then you'll have to wait till the next meeting. Because we can't just do this emotion off the cuff. I mean, that just is recipe for disaster. So if who are the members? Kristen, Keith, and Aaron, or Jeff, you were at the most recent meeting. If you'd rather sit in, you guys can decide. But have those 3 members with Mrs. Sansini and Mr. Wright sit down, and maybe Mrs. Stewart, if you're willing or able. I'd like, and then if you guys, if you need 2 weeks or to the next meeting, but this the shotgun approach, we've got to have a sounder.
I would feel more comfortable doing this.
So if we can recess for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I'll let Aaron.
So
Everybody. Yeah, I'm going to reconvene the meeting. Appreciate everybody's patience and time. And I guess with that, I will turn it over to the education working group, and they have come up with a proposal.
I'll start off by saying that I'm on the educational working group. However, having missed the last couple of meetings and Member Schleifer had been in my stead, he is part of the group that met. So,
thank you.
I've already said it once tonight, so I'll, even though I'm not the chairperson of the group, I think the consensus of the members of the educational group, I feel like if we look at serving our students first, we're better off to work with potting and working with those students and moving them back to the other two middle schools and give us the ability to work towards developing what the Hibbert building turns into, and also gives us the ability to give us room for the modification and construction work that will have to take place in the classroom. We won't have to worry about moving kids around. So I think the consensus of the group is it makes more sense for us to rip the Band-Aid off all the way one last time and move the kids back. Okay. Is that a fair representation?
Yeah, I believe it is. I don't anything to add. I don't think it's not anything that any of us wants to do. It's not something we're excited about doing, but we think that this is with everything that surrounds it. Let's say we debate. Do we send the 5th and 6th grade back and then just have the 8th grade stay there? They're not gonna have the same experience in that situation either. I think
just to follow up, this has been an ongoing conversation with the educational working group for some time.
For quite some time.
So this is the culmination of those discussions.
Correct.
For administration, I don't know what kind of motion. I guess move to return.
Well, I guess here's what I would propose. Again, probably speaking out of turn. I love Don speaking up earlier. I'm sorry, Mrs. Sunsini speaking earlier of talking about they actually literally have a proposal ready to present to the board. It wasn't presented tonight because we knew that we had several other topics for, celebrations and staff concerns and, all of the other stuff that we went with. So we didn't feel like it was appropriate to bring it tonight to have that conversation. I would think that if the consensus of the group is, yes, we're moving the students back, that's the decision that can be sent out. Yeah, that's happening. And let's incorporate in their proposal that we'll receive a presentation on in 2 weeks. Then if at the end of that proposal, then if we need final action to make that final move, we could put it to vote then or something like that. But at least this also gives them 2 weeks to fine tune that presentation. And there may be a couple of other questions that we didn't think about tonight because we did do some things kind of hastily.
Yeah.
And so let's just
let that recommendation stand.
Let that recommendation stand.
We can put it on the docket for the next.
Let's put it out in our email and on the website, wherever you want, however you want to communicate it. And then look forward to the presentation and final action taking place at our next board meeting. Does that sound good?
Right. And I will follow up the entire board. I mean, I've said on educational working group meetings, we get the minutes, we discuss them at, over the years, we've had different talk where we've talked about it. I think we spent some time at their retreat discussing it. So, it's not like, I think we can have faith in that committee or working group recommendation. I think we all have an idea what's going on.
And now it's on the docket, so we have to talk about it every board. No more surprises.
We will
Did you hear that, Keith? No more surprises.
So if Dr. Wright is okay with that, we'll.
Does that leave you in a good place of clarity? Yes. Good.
Because that lets them filter through and come up with other issues or concerns that we may not be aware of, right? Rather than, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concerns to go through with staffing and make sure that our staff's taken care of, our kids are taken care of, and make it as seamless as we can for everything. So.
My concern will always be first in regards, if this is inevitable and it's going to happen, is the commitment that we still owe to those 40 plus kids and their families. You know, in a community where we have a lot of struggling families, and we've heard that in so many different ways, but to have a child and a student whose hope may be to be involved with an educational process that guarantees their success and builds on their future that they otherwise may not have. I hope that, inevitably, if this is going to happen, that there's an assurance, as much as an assurance that we can give, that we are still going to hold those families, and specifically those students, near and dear to us, so that we can still ensure to them the successes that they would have had they still remained in that program. I think we owe it to them.
One more point. Is there a discussion meeting scheduled within the next 2 weeks or before our next board meeting?
Yes, sir.
Because then that way, that's one of the other good things about us not voting on it tonight.
Yeah.
That finality of that plan could go through the discussion process, and they may bring up some issues that we need to reconsider and change our thoughts. So, but I mean, if we move forward, I just want to make sure that we.
And if I could just ask the clarifying question, I apologize. I thought that the recommendation was that the program as it currently exists there in Hibbert is dissolving and the students are moving back. Is that?
It is, but what I'm thinking about is some of the other stuff that may come out of this that we're not thinking about tonight. Mm-hmm. The staff may have some other considerations that have nothing to do with that.
Gotcha. Okay. So as we proceed forward, as has been mentioned, these students will return, and then we'll. Gotcha. Okay.
Because I'd rather.
And we'll make that. That's the recommendation tonight. Next board meeting, that will be on the consent items, correct? Action items, and then we'll have an opportunity to all vote yeah.
Any other comments from the board?
I appreciate you guys. I mean, I know every one of us sitting here put in a lot of work, and I appreciate it. And I know at times that, like I said, this job is not an easy job. And so thank you for you guys hanging in there and working.
Just follow up building and grounds tomorrow. Do we have any previews for that?
I would look at the agenda. What I understand is that on the agenda is for particular colors to be selected for some of the projects and some of the current construction that's occurring. Some of it's coming to finalization to the point where paint colors have to be selected.
And could we also add to that conversation in that working group? There multiple people brought up the when we're doing the bathrooms, thinking about that. So I think that would be a great thing to discuss in the buildings and grounds. Have that conversation about restrooms.
Just for clarification, hasn't the contract already been awarded for that project?
Well, I know, but we also, how many of the change order things did we approve before? It's something to just to have a conversation about, at least to talk about
and
what that looks like.
The plans, I think that there are more stalls like with closures than what we maybe have seen in the past I don't know. I don't go in men's restrooms, so I don't know. But you can always review the plans and at least take a look at it and see if it meets some needs and
So-
you'll just do you need me to contact Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Slifer to let them know to bring those with them?
Be a good idea.
And I would think having a conversation with Ray to find out what the administration has talked to about the students or what solutions.
Yeah, because they've been talking to us for a couple hours or a couple of years, it says.
Yeah. I just don't know
Well,
what those are.
Yeah.
This is the first I've heard of this, so.
And also, I did forward the solar assessment information to Mr. Stoltz. So
Tomorrow I'll
let's
bring
bring
it
it
up
up
to
and
them.
see if
Yeah.
we can put a contact together to get that. We found a company that will do a free solar assessment for opportunities for a district. And so I'd like to bring them in, take advantage of that program to just get a sense of where we might be. Anything else with building and grounds? Financial working group meets next Tuesday. I think I touched on it briefly. We're mostly budgeting type stuff.
And it's mostly professional development right now for us.
Yes.
Thanks to Karen informing.
Saying that now, you might not say that by the end.
I've learned a lot from them. So.
The last item is the marketing work group, and they meet Friday. I believe it's Hazel Baker runs that group, and I think there's some new art for the elementary schools. Don't know what else is on that. If maybe Beth had any thoughts, but that group has not met for a while, so this will be kind of getting that group back fired up. Anything else? Board reports and discussions.
Yes, I think it's worth noting, communicating to the public, in particular to teachers and staff, that there has been discussion amongst the board regarding the board insurance resolution. There are some board members who have expressed an interest in having the option to decline the $1 insurance. So we are having Ron Cross look into making that an option in the resolution. And so that is already in the works.
All right. Anything else?
I don't know if this is placed, but John and I went to the Richmond Adult Education graduation yesterday with Dr. Wright, and I just haven't been informed about the adult education program very much, so I just learned a lot hearing the students graduating and a few of them with their speeches and things they've overcome and the opportunity they've been given was just really inspiring. So
It's definitely one of the coolest.
it was.
One of the coolest graduations having the bell ringing at the end is just it's an amazing experience if you've never been.
Had a 72-year-old, I believe, graduate.
Yeah.
Had been working on their degree for almost 20 years.
And if anyone ever has a bell they want to get rid of, they're taking donations.
And she began the program, I think, with grave difficulties reading, and so quite an accomplishment, I believe. A number of families. I know the one gentleman had 6 daughters, and he might have had 1,000 because they were as loud as an orchestra. So that was really, I said 6 daughters, he just shook his head. But yeah, that was a great event. So,
Kudos to the teachers and test examiners and administrators and the coordinators of that program.
takes a lot of work to get some of those people across. Anything else on board reports and discussions? All right, preview of upcoming meeting and events.
President Weber, trustees, our next board meeting is June 15th, right here in our boardroom. And on that date, we will continue to exercise our civil service and conduct the business of the school board. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Adjournment and bell ringer.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that our amazing Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, communication specialist, rejoin us for this evening's adjournment bell. Mrs. Hazelbaker.
Well, also just a reminder, tomorrow's the last day of school. Well, yeah.
Sure.
And then also, just a reminder, Richmond High School's graduation is Sunday, June 5th. The 8th grade celebration will also be at Civic Hall tomorrow morning, here at Richmond High School. Bell ringer, just to congratulate Josh Amix. He's received Assistant Principal of the Year for, I think it's District 6. So, had some information about that. And then also Richmond High School senior Caitlin Wonder was named an academic all-star member for the unified track team that we have at Richmond High School. So I wanted to congratulate those two. Thank you.
For those staying till the bitter end, thank you. Meeting adjourned.